Muslim and civil rights groups are speaking out against the most recent reports of Islamophobia in the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In a press conference outside FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C., speakers laid out their grievances.
We were dismayed by the latest revelation of FBI trainings that are based on Islamophobia, stereotypes, profiling, and ignorance. It's just the latest in revelations of FBI's training and investigative practices that target people based on their religion or their political beliefs.
Recently, attention's been focused on the construction of mosques in certain communities, particularly New York. Now, we must all recognize and respect the sensitivities surrounding the development of Lower Manhattan. The 9/11 attacks were a deeply traumatic event for our country. And the pain and the experience of suffering by those who lost loved ones is just unimaginable. So I understand the emotions that this issue engenders, and Ground Zero is indeed hallowed ground. But let me be clear. As a citizen and as president, I believe that Muslims have the right to practice their religion as everyone else in this country. And that includes the right to build a place of worship in a community center on private property in Lower Manhattan in accordance with local laws and ordinances. This is America, and our commitment to religious freedom must be unshakable. The principle that people of all faiths are welcome in this country and that they will not be treated differently by their government is essential to who we are. The writ of the founders must endure.
We're seeing people applauding, clapping, smiling, happy to know that thousands of Americans have died in this sneak attack.
The CIA teamed up with the New York Police Department and didn't get the FBI to do this is because they don't want any federal oversight. And they also, in the case of the New York Police Department, they don't even have oversight on a local level. The city council in New York City has no idea what's going on. And, you know, when the Associated Press questioned members of the city council, they're like, yeah, they're just trying to keep us safe. What's the big deal? You are not supposed to spy on U.S. citizens unless there is proof of wrongdoing.
The Center for American Progress has released a report illustrating how fear of Muslims is manufactured and fed to the American public and who's paying for it. The study is entitled Fear, Inc., The Roots of the Islamophobia Network in America, and it details how 7 foundations contributed over $42 million over the past 8 years to fund and create hatred towards Muslims. Donors Capital Fund, almost $21 million. Richard Scaife Foundations, nearly $8 million. Lindy and Harry Bradley Foundation, over $5 million. Russell Berry Foundation, a little over $3 million. Anchorage Charitable Fund and William Rosenwald Family Fund, nearly $3 million. Fairbrook Foundation, almost $1.5 million. Newton and Rochelle Becker Foundations, about $1 million. The center says the donations are used to fund rallies, create flawed reports, and subsidize Islamophobic writers and bloggers.
And we have produced a document which we call Sharia, the Threat to America.
Well, a panel of national security experts now sounding the alarm on Sharia law, saying the Obama administration is ignoring the threat of radical Islamic law and its links to terrorism.
They have not done their research on this imam that wants Sharia law, America to be more Sharia compliant.
Yes, I do not believe in Sharia law in American courts. We're not going to have Sharia law applied in U.S. courts.
And one of the things I'm going to suggest today is a federal law which says no court anywhere in the United States under any circumstance is allowed to consider Sharia as a replacement for American law.
For Drust Kakoy, one of the fondest memories from her childhood in Tennessee was going to the state fair.
I love the state fair. There's the Ferris wheel, of course, there's the bumper cars, there's the cotton candy.
Kakoy and her family came to America when she was 5. They were Kurdish refugees escaping Saddam Hussein's Iraq. In 2001, Kakoy was 10 years old and fully immersed in American life.
My mom is the one.
But when she asked her dad to go to the fair that year,
and my dad was like, no, we're not going. We just can't go this year. Maybe if things cool down, we'll go next year. We just can't go this year. And that was the time where I noticed, okay, well, something's happened that we can't even go outside to go to the state fair.
Voice system initiated.
Just think about what you're doing to free speech. No, think about the people who can get hurt.
I don't know who to listen to.
Okay, I'll make it easy for you. Pull the Muhammad episode, now!
Okay, I'll listen to you.
For Chantel Cummings, Islam lay at the end of a long spiritual journey.
I was just aggressively seeking any kind of knowledge that I could. When I got my English translation of the Quran and I started reading it, it was amazing. I just thought, wow, this is how I feel and how I think and how I want my life.
And this isn't the first time that's happened. According to federal law enforcement officials, about a third of all foiled al-Qaeda plots in the United States have relied on support or information provided by members of the Muslim community. Furthermore, a study at Duke University found that many mosque leaders have put significant effort into countering terrorism by building youth programs, sponsoring anti-violence forums, and scrutinizing teachers and texts. And yet the crucial role Muslim Americans have played in fighting terrorism continues to be ignored or twisted.
With the American flag on her shoulder and a hijab on her head, Priscilla brings her family to volunteer at this local food shelter. She says they're doing their part as good Muslims, but also hopes their service will change negative stereotypes about their religion.
We do have a little bit more of a consciousness, I guess, that we, do kind of serve as ambassadors, hopefully positive ambassadors for our religion.
I think it does help them see that we're not what they think we are. We're regular people.
The 2.6 million Muslims in the U.S. are still a tiny minority, less than 1% of the population. Recent polls show only 30% of Americans hold favorable views of Islam, which some link to terrorism and oppression of women. Priscilla's husband, Rizwan, works to dispel misconceptions as head of outreach at their mosque. He says he's working to make people more comfortable with his faith so his children have a better future.
People ask, how come you don't condemn terrorism and extremism? Where are the moderate Muslims? And so in the various dialogues at various churches or synagogues, I've had to answer that question to say, no, we actually have condemned terrorism. Our faith condemns terrorism and extremism.
Since 9/11, Islamophobia in law enforcement has become a growing trend, particularly in the past few years, leading to fears that it will, in time, become an institutionalized norm.
In the U.S., surveillance cameras at a prison have captured footage of one inmate beating a Muslim prisoner while guards look on. Hani Elabed suffered bleeding inside his skull and spent 3 days in a coma.
I have no doubt the distortion and hatred will continue. Islamophobia exists in our society. It is pervasive, and it serves the political agenda of some folks on the right. But let's be clear. American Muslims are every bit as patriotic and committed to U.S. security as anybody else. They have proven it repeatedly, not just this week, but for many years. And our society would be better served if all of us would stop and take notice.
Marjan Asi, Press TV, Washington.